And greetings, everybody. Keith here, hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We've got John here with us today. How you doing today, John?
Doing good, Keith?
Good, good. So, looks nice out there where you're at.
Yeah, right now. Give it 5 minutes, something will happen.
Well, I'm hoping something will happen. Yeah, I'm hoping something will happen here. We got 18 inches of snow here in the middle of Iowa.
No shit.
Yeah, we're in negative temperatures with wind chills and stuff. So nice
All
and
right.
toasty.
I don't feel so bad now. All right, good.
There you go. There you go. So we're going to continue today on what we started with last night on the immigration and education that's provided through the supposed government that people think is a government, United States. It's a corporation, folks. So we're going to continue on with that today. And we left off with 7 U.S. Code 2021, or excuse me, 2012, which was a set of definitions. And today we're going to continue on with the next section, which is 7 U.S. Code. If I can find it. Where is it at? And it's 2016. Come on. There it is. Which is issuance and use of program benefits. And again, this is a corporate entity that's issuing the program benefits for use. And we're not going to read this whole thing. This is a long thing going on here, but we're going to go over a few of these. We already went over what an EBT card was. Use. And like I said before, this is a use-of-fruct system. And it says benefits issued to eligible households shall be used by them only to purchase food from retail food stores which have been approved for participation in supplemental nutrition assistance program at prices prevailing in such stores, provided that nothing in this chapter shall be construed as authorizing the Secretary to specify the prices at which food may be sold by wholesale food concerns or retail stores. Now, if you remember yesterday's definition of coupon, understand that coupons, if you look at your regular coupons that you get in the newspaper or something like that, it'll say like 50 cents off a can of baked beans or something. Now, that's a 50-cent face value for its use. If you redeem it, it only gives you a fraction of that value. This is the same thing with cash, as you saw in the definition of coupon. Cash itself is a coupon. And when we think of cash, that's those Federal Reserve notes. So when we think about the Federal Reserve notes as a coupon, it's got a face value, but its redemption price is only a fraction of that value. They're known literally as fractional reserve notes. And again, it's not a national currency, it's a reserve currency. And it's only a fraction of the national currency. The Federal Reserve notes are a coupon based on the value of United States notes. So let's continue on.
And they have faces too, right, Keith?
They have what?
The FRNs, they even have faces.
Yes. Yep. Here it says delivery and control procedures, and that's what the titles are about. The titles, like I said, with immigration, it's the data elements that are being migrated from one place to another. It's a transfer of information, and therefore that's the immigrant. The person was migrated from one document to another. So the person on the statement of live birth that your mom gave at the hospital for the enumeration at birth was then, by the bailor, the birth clerk, delivered to the county registrar, who is the bailee. Okay? And that's a title for entry and control. It was an entrance into the record, a migration from outside the record into the record. The person was migrated into the record. That's the immigrant. State issuance liability, alternative benefit delivery, termination of manual vouchers, unique identification number required. To enhance the anti-fraud protections of the program, the Secretary shall require all parties providing electronic benefit transfer services to provide for and maintain unique terminal identification number information through a supplemental nutrition assistance program, electronic benefit transfer transaction routing system. And that's what I've been saying about all those numbers. Those are routing numbers. And I've got a guy that I'm working with up in Chilliwack, Canada. Been having some success on setting off his bills by decoding the numbers that they give you on those coupons on the bottom of your billing statements. Those are coupons. And if you remember, a coupon is a check as well. So that coupon on a billing statement is in check form and not cash form. So you recognize the form of the coupon. All those things are coupons. The birth certificate is a type of certificate. It's known as a coupon. It's in lieu of a coupon, so it's synonymous. Same with that authority card, authorization card from the Social Security Administration. Those both have routing numbers on them. Let's see here. What else? Let's see here. Section 1693O-2 of Title 15 shall not apply to electronic benefit transfers or reimbursement systems under this chapter. It's saying federal law is not applicable. And I missed this one. Let me check this out. 1630. Oops. 30. And that's O-2. And it says reasonable fees and rules for payment card transactions. For payment card transactions. And if you remember the definition for credit card, it was almost the same as, what was it? Let's see here. The same thing as, that's not it.
All cards are credit cards, right?
Access device, yes. A credit card means any card, plate, or device used to obtain property, money, property, labor, or services on credit. And it's under 7 U.S.C. 2012 that we read yesterday. Access device means any card, plate, code, account number, or other means of access. And it's used to initiate a transfer of funds. So the card transactions, make sure I'm on the right page here for everybody. So the card transactions, reasonable interchange after it's already been exchanged. Exchange is that enumeration at birth where they exchange one name for another. They exchange the given name and family name, and those two became one. A legal name that consists of a first name and a last name. That is not the given name or the family name. Those are legal constructs for commercial use. Reasonable interchange transaction fees, information collection, for purposes of this paragraph, the term issuer shall be limited to the person holding the asset account that is debited through an electronic debit transaction. So it's the one that's holding the account. Like I said, it's the Bancorp of America that has an account that PayPal then applies to become an issuer of one of those accounts. So then the PayPal has an account, and then under them, they issue accounts to other people for use by using MasterCard, Visa cards as debit cards. And again, that's a debit card, and it's any card that is used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. So even if it's a debit, it's done on credit. It's not money. It's not cash. Okay? Like I said, this is a credit system today. Let's see, anything else here? The board shall, before the end of the one-year period beginning on July 21st, 2010, prescribe regulations providing that an issuer or payment card network shall not, directly or through any agent, processor, or licensed member of the network by contract, requirement, condition, penalty, or otherwise, inhibit the ability of any person who accepts debit cards for payment to direct the routing of electronic debit transactions for processing over any payment card network that may process such transactions. So we can direct them to route it as a credit and not a debit. Okay? That's the importance of giving a directive. It's a directive. This is the discount on the coupons, right? Remember, it's 50 cents off. That's a discount. For purposes of this paragraph, the network may not penalize any person for the providing of a discount that is in compliance with federal law and applicable state law. See those credit cards, the license plate, the Social Security card. Those are all for lawful discounts of what was accounted. Okay? The term debit card means any card or other payment code or device issued or approved for use through a payment card network to debit an asset account, regardless of the purpose for which the account is established, whether authorization is based on signature, PIN, or other means. Credit card has the same meaning as section 1602 of this title. So again, here's that definition. 1602, definitions and rules of construction. The term credit card means any card, plate, coupon, or other credit device existing for the purpose of obtaining money, property, labor, or services on credit. So let's go back to 2016 then, issuance and use of program benefits. Let's see here. Where is it? Recovering electronic benefits. A state agency shall establish a procedure for recovering electronic benefits from the account of a household due to inactivity or due to the death of all members of the household. Benefit storage. In general, a state agency may store recovered electronic benefits offline in accord with Clause 2 if the household has not accessed the account after 3 months. So when you pay into the Social Security and FICA, Federal Insurance Contributions Act, you pay that into this account. It's an electronic benefits account, and that account is holding insurance credits. And that person is known as a decedent. And the state is conducting the affairs of the decedent in probate, in a probate state, a probate capacity. In other words, the record reflects that the person is not alive. It's a decedent, presuming or presenting a presumption that the person has died, has deceased. So let's take a look at it again. Let me get rid of these other pages. Benefit expunging. In general, subject to Clause 2, a state agency shall expunge benefits that have not been accessed by a household after a period of 9 months, or upon verification that all members of the household are deceased. Notice of benefit expunging. Not later than 30 days before benefits are to be expunged, a state agency shall provide sufficient notice to the household that benefits will be expunged due to inactivity, and the date upon which the benefits will be expunged. For benefits stored offline in accordance with subchapter B, provide the household an opportunity to request such benefits to be restored to the household, and not later than 48 hours after request by the household, make the benefits available to the household. They're literally telling you that if you haven't got notification, you can make the request, and if it's being held in off the books, off the electronic record, and rather just in the paperwork, then you can request that. Mobile technologies, those are known as devices, and you use those to access electronically your bank account. That is a credit device or an access device used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. Crediting. Notwithstanding Section 3302B of Title 31, Money and Finance, payments received under subparagraph A shall be credited to the Supplemental Assistance or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program appropriation account, or the account from which the costs were drawn as appropriate for the fiscal year in which the payment is received. So like I said, that person is the title of an estate known as a decedent, and that's what they're drawing all of the funds from. They're your funds. Portability means a system that enables program benefits in the form of electronic benefit transfer card to be used in any state by a household who purchase food at a retail food store or wholesale food concern approved under this chapter. So they're saying you can go from one state to another and use that card, but it can only be issued in the state in which you are a resident. Settling. When we talk about settlement, the term settling means movement and reporting such movement of funds from an electronic benefit transfer card issuer that is located in one state to a retail food store or wholesale food concern that is located in another state to accomplish an interstate transaction. Smart card. The term smart card means an intelligent benefit card described in section 2026F of this title, which is those bank cards, your credit and debit cards that you stick into those machines and they start spitting out money, or you stick it into a machine and it pays at the counter for you. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's about it on this one. Yep. So let's go to the next one. The next one is 2020, 7 U.S. Code 2020 administration. Okay? It's an administrative process, even in the Department of Agriculture. The responsibility of the agency of the state government shall not be affected by whether the program is operated on a state administered or county administered basis. So what they're doing there, and remember folks, the county is not a government. The county is a military zone. That's why they have a county commissioner. Same with the Social Security commissioner, the IRS commissioner, Postal Regulatory Commission. Those are military organizations. Let's see here. Correction of improper denials and underissuances. When a state agency learns through its own reviews under Section 2025 of this title or other reviews. So if you review things and you find that they denied you when they were supposed to give you benefits, that has improperly denied, terminated, or underissued benefits to an eligible household, the state agency shall promptly restore any improperly denied benefits to the extent required by subsection E11 and section 2023B of this title, and shall take other steps to prevent reoccurrence of such errors, where such error was caused by the application of state agency practices, rules, or procedures inconsistent with the requirements of this chapter or with regulations or policies of the secretary issued under the authority of this chapter. Again, remember, this nowhere does it say law, okay? It's policy and procedures that they practice, that they use a set of rules to do so. Relation to other laws. They call them relation to other laws. But these are actually laws here. The Age Discrimination Act of 1975, and it will have a public law down in the bottom of this title or this code showing that Age Discrimination Act. Same with the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is the one that we're going to concentrate on here. We're going to talk about that particular Americans with disabilities and stuff as a prohibition against exclusion from participation in and denial of benefits. We're going to talk, that's going to be one of the last ones we talk about today. And that's under Title 42, it says here. We're going to look at a different section of Title 42 that's going to talk specifically about the prohibition. And notice, it's a plan. Now it's a plan. It's not a law. It's a plan of operation. Let me get my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, yeah, we want to go down to H. Where are you? Deposit by state to cover fraudulently or negligently issued benefits. If the Secretary determines that there has been negligence or fraud on the part of the agency in the certification of applicant households, so this is a type of certificate. So that's a coupon. They're giving a discount. The state shall, upon request of the Secretary, deposit into the Treasury of the United States a sum equal to the face value of any benefits issued as a result of negligence or fraud. Use of post offices. Subject to the approval of the President, post offices in all parts of the state may provide, on request by the state agency, supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits to eligible households. Now, why would the post office? Why would the post office provide such benefits? You got any idea, John?
Well, I mean, if it's a benefit, that's not a good word. I don't know, Keith. I thought the post office was for us, the people. De jure, you know?
Exactly. So what we have here, you notice this is the administration process. The post office, like I've been saying all along, folks, is the judicial office. That's where the financial concerns and considerations are derived from. That's where all money is obligated. The United States 18 U.S.C. 8 has an obligation and other securities of the United States, which is already a contract with the post office to issue coupons. The post office is the real money holder. They are the real money changers. Okay? They're the ones that deal with the rates of exchange, whether it be cash, coupons, or otherwise. You see how that works, John? I see the wheels going in your head now, don't you? See?
And they do the money orders too, right, Keith?
Yep. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story about the money orders as it relates to a local grocery store. Somebody sent me as a donation a postal money order in the mail. And when I got it, I went up to the local Hy-Vee store to cash it because they have a post office outlet. They have a certificate on their wall, Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship certificate for the very scale that they use to weigh the packages for the exchange rates for postal items. And when you present a postal money order to a postal outlet, they have an obligation. Just like the United States has an obligation to redeem the Federal Reserve notes, the Postal Service has an obligation to redeem their own money orders. Well, the guy at the store says, no, we don't, sorry, we don't cash checks. No, this isn't a check. This is a money order from the Postal Service. And you see that certificate on the wall there? That's what allows you to use that scale. And that's what tells me you've got an obligation to cash this. Now, if you don't cash this, this is only $100. Now, read the back of this money order, sir. It says valuable up to $1,000. I guarantee you, if I have to file a claim with the Postal Service, I will make it a claim for $1,000. You can either cash it for $100 now as a negotiable instrument that is already fulfilling its obligation, or you can force me to labor in the administrative courts through the Postal Service to have this value cashed for its true value on the back of the instrument and not on the face. See, the face value is a fraction of the value that that document actually holds. So if the document on the back says it's valued or valuable up to $1,000 and they don't cash it, I can make the claim of $1,000. I'm not claiming its face value anymore as a coupon. I'm claiming its full value as the obligation is stated. Big difference. And I guarantee, and I'm telling you what, he didn't want to do that. He did not want to cash that. So I had to have him call the Northern District Postal Service manager up in Minnesota. And he got on the line with her. And next thing you know, he's cashing that money order. So you just have to know how this stuff is worded and really comprehend it so you can put it to them. Let's see here. What else? Data processing systems. This is important, folks. Again, it's that data collection and the data elements that you're giving them. And again, if you're allowed as a buyer or a seller or a ship to party under shipping laws, customs and shipping laws, 19 CFR 149.3, you are allowed to give a widely recognized commercially identifiable number in lieu of the name and address. State verification option. In carrying out the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, a state agency shall be required to use an immigration status verification system. And remember, that's immigration. So it was moved from one place to another, like we just read earlier. It's the same concept. It's synonymous. It's a movement. It's a reporting. It's an immigration. Okay? Under Section 1137 of the Social Security Act, which is 42 U.S.C. 1320B-7, and an income and eligibility verification system in accordance with standards set by the Secretary. So they're using the state verification data system, and as long as you keep giving them a name and address instead of giving a number in lieu of the name and address, they're going to use that name and address and match it up to the number and use a number system to route it for their own benefit. You have to learn the routing and learn your position as a creditor or the person as a creditor and use things on credit. Because there is, again, HGR 192, Public Law 73-10, there is no money available, as that term is defined. Everything's on credit now. Remember we talked about transit. Freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. And when we think about transit, we think about transitional. When we think about transitional, that's a developmental stage. It's like a caterpillar that builds a cocoon, and he's in a transitional period. He's changing. It's going from one form to another form. Okay? See if there's anything else here. I think that was the only thing I had on this one as well. Agreement for direct certification and cooperation. This is a cooperative agreement to direct the certificate. In other words, you're going to route the certificate in a cooperative agreement. You're going to negotiate it. Data exchange standards for improved interoperability. They don't care about whether you can use it proficiently. They want to be able to use it proficiently for their benefit. That's why they don't educate you like this. X marks the spot. National Accuracy Clearinghouse. Definition of indication of multiple issuance. In this subsection, the term indication of multiple issuance means an indication based on a computer match that supplemental nutrition assistance benefits are being used to an individual by more than one state agency simultaneously. This is the same thing with your data. It's being issued to more than one state agency simultaneously. Data matching, data protection. The Secretary shall require the state agencies to make available to the National Accuracy Clearinghouse only such information as is necessary for the purpose described in subparagraph A. To disperse it to more than one state agency simultaneously. The information made available by state agencies under subparagraph B shall be used only for the purpose described in subparagraph A. Remember section 552 of Title V, or 552A, Title V, pursuant to section 552B3 of Title V, shall be exempt from disclosure requirements. That kind of defeats the requirement for full disclosure, huh? Looks like they're giving themselves a loophole. Kind of odd to me, and it should be odd to everybody. Okay, and see, there's all those public laws and everything that they're using for these titles. This is a lot of information, folks. But the simple definitions should be readily comprehended if you have good English skills. Now, the next one we're going to get into is the Code of Federal Regulations of the agriculture. And this is subpart B, residency and citizenship. Citizenship and alien status. Household members meeting citizenship or alien status requirements. It's no person. Again, it's the person that is the immigrant. It is the one that has migrated from one place to another in record form, not in physical living human being or natural being, the living soul, but the documentation. When a migrant comes from the South, in order to be able to enter into the United States, they're supposed to have documentation to cross those borders. First requirement, eligible to participate in program unless that person is a U.S. citizen. No person is eligible to participate in the program unless that person is a U.S. citizen. So let me ask everybody, if you're claiming to be a United States citizen and getting those supplemental nutritional food program benefits, Are you and the state agency violating this? It says it's not eligible for U.S. citizens. For guidance, see the Department of Justice interim guidance. Again, it's not a law, it's just guidance. A U.S. non-citizen national and an individual who is an American Indian born in Canada who possesses at least 50% of blood of the American Indian race. Remember what Indian is? Again, it's a person. It says person. Person. These are persons. That's why they're capitalized. A member of an Indian tribe, an individual who is lawfully residing in the U.S. and was a member of Hmong or Highland Laotian tribe at the time that the tribe rendered assistance to the U.S. Sounds like an equal consideration, equal benefit. See if there's anything else here. I don't think there is much else on this one either. A lot of these codes, you'll get a good comprehension on what's going on in the first few. And a lot of times, if you go all the way down to the last one, you will find another interesting note somewhere. Such as 26 U.S.C. 1031. That's an interesting one. Notice these are all individuals or persons. An individual is a person. Reporting illegal aliens. If they're illegal, they're going to report them. In other words, they're going to migrate them again. And a sponsor is one that funds everything. So as far as the United States goes, the United States is the one funding all the states. So the United States is the sponsor of all the states. Let's see, anything else? Demands for restitution. The state agency must exclude any sponsor who is participating in their program from any demand under 8 CFR 213A4 for value of SNAP benefits issued to an eligible sponsored alien he or she sponsors. So they're saying you can't make demands for restitution to the sponsors. You can only get it from the alien that's sponsored. So what they're saying here is you can't get it from the state agency. They're supposed to get it from you, the individual. That's what you're claiming. You're claiming to be an individual. Now, yesterday I told you we were talking about the Indian, and there was another section on Indians that I wanted to talk about, and that's Title 25. So we're going to take a look at that next. And this is 25 U.S. Code 5304, where they talk about definitions again. A lot of the codes I like are the definitions. Let me check with chat and see what's going on there here real quick. I do want to show everybody my appreciation and gratitude for support. So welcome everybody. Moose, Witness, Galleon, Salted Cedar, Disciple of Messiah. Everybody welcome. Anybody else I missed? I know there's a lot more than that, but feel free to make comments. Feel free to join the panel. The StreamYard link is down there. And of course, there's PayPal links down in the details for anybody who wants to share some love. And with that, we'll get back into it. It says, for purposes of this chapter, the term construction programs means programs for the planning, design, construction, repair, improvement, and expansion of buildings or facilities, included but not limited to housing, law enforcement, detention facilities, sanitation and water systems, roads, schools, administration, health facilities, irrigation and agricultural work, and water conservation, flood control, or port facilities. Now remember the very first one we talked about, titles of the CFR relating to immigration, and it showed domestic security, agriculture, da da da. And then we went to the next one, and we showed the oops, not that one. The agriculture, banking, finance, chemical industries, commercial facilities, dams, defense, industrial bases, emergency service. That's what this stuff is. It's all the same thing. Okay? So you see the same thing there. Where'd we go? Where'd we go? So it's all this stuff here that they're talking about. Contract funding base. So who's the who funds it? The sponsor. Means the base level from which contract funding needs are determined, including all contract costs. So the base the contract funding base is the state agency. Indian means a person who is a member of an Indian tribe. Indian tribe, not capitalized, or Indian tribe capitalized, means any tribe or any Indian tribe, band, nation, or other organized group or community, which is recognized as eligible for special programs and services provided by the United States to Indians because of their status as Indians. Because of their status as persons. Self-determination contract. Okay? Remember, you're making the self-determination that you're a resident. You're making the self-determination that you're a United States citizen. And you're doing so because somebody else wrote their beliefs down on a piece of paper and you believe the same thing without knowing it's false. Self-determination contract means a contract entered into under Subchapter 1 or grant or cooperative agreement used under Section 5308 of this title between a tribal organization and the appropriate secretary for the planning, conduct, and administration of programs or services that are otherwise provided to Indian tribes and members of Indian tribes pursuant to federal law, subject to the condition that, except as provided in Section 5324A3 of this title, no contract entered into under Subchapter 1 or grant or cooperative agreement under shall be considered to be a procurement contract. Procurement contract. That's that Federal Acquisitions Regulations. Contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders - commercial items, commercial services. So if you're going to procure commercial items, commercial services, it shall be considered to be a procurement contract. You gave them something and they're supposed to give you something back. Tribal organization means the recognized governing body of an Indian tribe, any legally established organization of Indians, which is controlled, sanctioned, or chartered by such governing body, or which is democratically elected by the adult members of the Indian community to be served by such organization, and which includes the maximum participation of Indians in all phases of its activities. Provided that in any case where a contract is let or grant made, contract is let. What's a let? That's a lease. Are you going to let that building? They're asking if you're going to lease that building. It's a lease, synonymous. Or grant made to an organization to perform services benefiting more than one Indian tribe. The approval of each such Indian tribe shall be prerequisite to the letting or making of such contract or grant. And construction contract means a fixed price or cost reimbursement self-determination contract for a construction project, except that such term does not include any contract that is limited to providing planning services and construction management services. For the Housing Improvement Program or Roads Maintenance Program of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, administered by the Secretary of the Interior. That's HUD again. Remember HUD? HUD's the one that has to insure all the construction contracts, because when they use the roads, or when they have to build roads or anything, improve roads or improve housing, they have to condemn the land of its natural use so they can construct the roads and housings, the needful places and buildings along the postal roads. Okay? Again, still commercial. Now the next one, we're going to get into the education, and this is back to 20 U.S. Code 6398, coordination. Remember, it's the ordained ordinance, and it's coordination of migrant education activities. I can't remember which one I had here. Student records. No. After consulting with the states under paragraph A, the Secretary shall publish a notice in the Federal Register seeking public comment on any new proposed data elements that each state receiving funds under this part shall be required to collect for purposes of electronic transfer of migratory student information, and requirements that states shall meet for immediate electronic access to such information. No cost for certain transfers. A state educational agency or local educational agency receiving assistance under this part shall make student records available to another state educational agency or local educational agency that requests the records at no cost to the requesting agency if the request is made in order to meet the needs of a migratory child. Migratory child. The term migratory child means a child or youth who made a qualifying move in the preceding 36 months. As a migratory agricultural worker or migratory fisher, or with or to join a parent or spouse who is a migratory agricultural worker or a migratory fisher. Okay? Not a production worker, not working in a manufacturing plant, specifically. Okay? Data collection. The Secretary shall direct the National Center for Education Statistics to collect data on migratory children. No other children. Yet here you are offering up information as if though you're required to. You're putting your children in the public education system as if though you're required to, and you're not. That's a self-determination again, folks. You have to learn this, and you have to stop it. The next one, 20 U.S. Code 1091, student eligibility. In order to receive any grant, loan, or work assistance under this subchapter, a student must be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in a degree, certificate, or other program, including a program of study abroad approved for credit by the eligible institution at which the student is enrolled, leading to a recognized educational credential. Remember, I said the merits is the spiritual credence, and my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and knowledge is actually the benefit, and therefore you have educational credentials, and you don't need those from a school. You can develop your own credence. You can transition from a child in person to a child of God. At an institution of higher education that is an eligible institution in accordance with the provisions of Section 1094 of this title, except as provided in Sections B3 and B4, and not be enrolled in an elementary or secondary school. And remember, that's higher education, and it's not a elementary or secondary, but high school. So again, back to the selective service video I did a couple years back. Selective service is based on the fact that the male child at age of 14 has a ability to quit school, and instead mom and dad tell him, no, you're going to fucking finish high school or you're going to get the fuck out of my house. Well, guess what? Taking upon that higher education, you just forced your child to take a benefit upon a requirement that by taking upon a benefit of Medicare, or medical insurance or higher education, he is now required to sign up for selective service. Let's see here. Institution of higher education. For purposes of this... Okay, we're gonna have to go to 20 U.S.C. 1001 because it says institution of higher education. For purposes of this chapter, other than subchapter 4, the term institution of higher education means an educational institution in any state that, and then there's nothing else. So let's check this out. Let me open this up in another window. Take this one back here. Then we'll go here. General definition of institution of higher education. For purposes that admits as regular students only persons having a certificate of graduation from a school providing secondary education or the recognized equivalent of such a certificate or person who meets the requirements. So again, once you pass your secondary education, you've got elementary, 1st through 5th. Then you've got a secondary education, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Once you graduate 8th grade, around the age of 13 or 14 years old, now you can go into higher education. Okay? So it's just as I said. Oops, and I lost my screen share by doing that. Let me get my screen share back up. Which one do we want? 6398, that was it. Oops. The next one. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. So now we know what the higher education is. That's at high school. And gentlemen, mothers and fathers, when you send your children to those schools, again, like I said, that selective service is dependent upon taking on that benefit of higher education and medical services from the state agency. that the high schools are provided for by an administration or operation of selective service. See if there's anything else here. Students who are not high school graduates. In order for a student who does not have a certificate of graduation from a school providing secondary education or the recognized equivalent of such certificate to be eligible for any assistance under subparts 1, 3, and 4 of Part A and Parts B, C, D, and E of this subchapter, the student shall meet the requirements of one of the following subparagraphs. So they're giving you something else besides high school that you can meet the requirements for in order to get those benefits. Let's see here. Verification of immigration status. The Secretary shall implement, so it's a contract using statutes, a system under which the statements and supporting documentation, if required, of an individual declaring that such individual is in compliance with the requirements of this subsection shall be verified prior to the individual's receipt of a grant, loan, or work assistance under this subchapter. This is where the negligence comes in, folks. And again, I urge everybody to learn how to read, unlearn the remembering that they taught you, and relearn concise English, because that's where the negligence occurs. These people in these agencies and offices are negligent because they don't know how to read themselves. Or if they can read, they haven't done the research to know the stuff. And therefore, when you declare it and they don't check it by doing all the research that's required to do this stuff according to those policies and stuff, they're going to miss things. And that's why I tell you, every record out there is got an error. You declared it yourself. That is not. No person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. You declared it voluntarily, and they took it and ran with it without making sure that that necessity was deemed necessary by the board. And that's all they got to do. It was never done. It was declared by mom. It was declared by mom, supporting a record that was established prenatally, and she herself admits that she's a resident and a United States citizen. Again, an errored record extended from an errored record, extended from an errored record, extended from... How long is the error going to go on before people realize it? Two very simple definitions, and at the end, like I said, we're going to talk about native at the very end of this, and that's going to be the final definition that you're going to get screwed up on. So let's take a look at it again. Special rule: the documents collected and maintained by an eligible institution in the admission of a student to the institution may be used by the student in lieu of the documents used to establish both employment authorization and identity. The documents collected and maintained by an eligible institution in the admission of a student to the institution may be used by the student in lieu of the documents used to establish both employment authorization and identity. Social Security card and driver's license or state ID are such things, and you can use your student documents to verify eligibility to participate in work-study programs under Part C of this subchapter. Verification mechanisms. The Secretary is authorized to verify such statements. Authorized to verify, not required, but authorized to verify such statements and supporting documentation through a data match using an automated or other system with other federal agencies that may be in possession of information relevant to such statements and supporting documentation. Review. In the case of such an individual who is not a citizen or national of the United States, if the statement described in paragraph 1 is submitted, but the documentation required under paragraph 2 is not presented, or if documentation required under paragraph 2A is presented, but such documentation is not verified, the institution shall provide a reasonable opportunity to submit to the institution evidence indicating a satisfactory immigration status. 2, may not delay, deny, reduce, or terminate the individual's eligibility for the grant, loan, or work assistance on the basis of the individual's immigration status or based on the person's nationality. That would be under the Discrimination Laws of Americans with Disabilities Act that we saw a little bit ago. Until such a reasonable opportunity has been provided, and if there are submitted documents which the institution determines constitute reasonable evidence indicating such status, the institution shall transmit to the Immigration and Naturalization Service either photostatic or other similar copies of such documents or information from such documents as specified by the Immigration and Naturalization Service for official verification. That's that statement of live birth at the hospital. It's a misidentification. Pending such verification, the institution may not delay, deny, reduce, or terminate the individual's eligibility for the grant, loan, or work assistance on the basis of the individual's immigration status. And the institution shall not be liable for the consequences of any action, delay, or failure of the service to conduct such verification. Well, why would they have to follow up on it if they're not going to be held liable? Limitations of enforcement actions against institutions. Let's see here. What else? Remember the Federal Reserve Circular, special rule for correspondence courses. Did you know anybody that performs banking transactions is considered a banker? So under the Federal Reserve Circular number 1 that we read last week or whatever, that correspondence course, that's your education. They're teaching you certain things about banking. Name, address, and signature. That's all they're interested from you. They'll do the rest of the banking. But as long as you sign that check, as long as you sign that money order, as long as you sign that security, that's all they want from you. Here we go. Database matching. Now remember, this is under 20 U.S. Code, Employee Benefits. And it says, database matching. To enforce the Selective Service Registration provisions of Section 3811F of Title 50, the Secretary shall conduct database matches with the Selective Service using common demographic data elements. Appropriate confirmation through an application output document or through other means of any person's registration shall fulfill the requirement to file a separate statement of compliance. In the absence of confirmation from such data matches, An institution may also use data or documents that support either the student's registration or the absence of a registration requirement for the student to fulfill the requirement to file a separate statement of compliance. The mechanism for reporting the resolution of non-confirmed matches shall be prescribed by the Secretary in regulations. The Selective Service Registration. Told you it's all about the military, and we're going to take a look at 32 CFR 1602.4. Area Office. And notice it's Title 32, National Defense, Other Regulations Relating to National Defense, Selective Service System. Definitions. Area Office, and it's the only definition under it. Area Office, the Selective Service Office, which is responsible for all administrative and operational support for the one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. It is a military zone. It's the zoning improvement plan. So they can move and operate and administrate military-wise. And this is all based on the Autobahn from World War II. German Autobahn. Looks like we lost John. Okay, let's continue on. The next one, let's make sure we're finished here. Study abroad verification. Verification of Social Security number, Secretary of Education, in cooperation with the Commissioner or other Social Security Administration, shall verify any Social Security number provided by a student to an eligible institution under subsection A4 and shall enforce the following conditions. So your education, again, when you register your children into that school, you give them the Social Security number, which is a medical assistance in case the school nurse has to take them to the hospital because they can't acquire parents' permission because somehow they can't get a hold of the mom or dad. So the school has to be able to enforce that, and you're giving them allowance to use those benefits. Quit putting your children in the hands of these evil fuckers. Excuse my language. And they're not all evil, but many of them are pure negligent. And again, real quick, it says, except as provided in paragraphs 2 and 3, an institution shall not deny, reduce, delay, or terminate a student's eligibility for assistance under this part because Social Security number verification is pending. This is the same thing with justice shall not be delayed, denied, or come at an expense. Okay? It's the same thing. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, unless such provision is enacted with specific reference to this section, the Secretary is authorized to waive any statutory provision applicable to the student financial assistance programs under Section 1070A of this title, Subpart 3 of Part A or Part C, other than provision of the Part F related to such programs, or any institutional eligibility provisions of this subchapter, as the Secretary determines necessary to ensure that programs enrolling students with intellectual disabilities otherwise determined to be eligible under this subsection may receive such financial assistance. This is the authority, okay? Public Education Assistance Authority comes under Title 20 employee benefits. Mom and dad, again, by claiming you're a resident and United States citizen, you're claiming to be an employee of that federal, state, or local municipal government as an officer or agent whose resident presence was deemed necessary, and that just is not so. There is no authority to do that unless you're an employee, okay? Employee benefits. The data analyzed under this subsection shall be updated at the beginning of each award year. They call it an award year. And what do they give you at the end of the year when you graduate high school? A diploma. It's a certificate. It's a certificate where you can obtain things on credit. But see, you're intellectually disabled because you don't know how to use it. They never taught you that. Report to Congress. The Secretary shall prepare and submit to the authorizing committees in each fiscal year a report describing the results obtained by the establishment and operation of the data system authorized by this subsection. So, describing the results obtained, that's all the information you keep volunteering. And they're giving a communication with Congress by proxy. You've already communicated with Congress, Mom, when you signed that document at the hospital statement of live birth. That's a communication with Congress. The next one, let me check and make sure everybody's still with us and I'm still with everybody else. Okay. And again, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody who wants to come up and join the panel. The next one here, family, educational, and privacy rights. And again, folks, in case you didn't catch this, when you give these people this information, they distribute it throughout the state through many different state agencies and other states and federal agencies. Okay? You're volunteering the information. You're the one violating your privacy rights. You're the one telling them the given and family names. Sorry, that's private. Well, what do you mean it's private? Well, I'm sorry, but did God have a last name? There is pay tribute to no earthly father, for there is but one Father which art in heaven. You're paying tribute. You're paying tribute to a fictional, patronymical father. United States is a fiction. You're not supposed to be paying tribute. You're supposed to be getting equal consideration through contract. That's fine. But you're not supposed to pay tribute. You have no way to pay. You do have a way to exchange equal considerations, but you do not have a way to pay. Paying is for debtors. Let's see here. No funds shall be made available under any applicable program to any educational agency or institution which has a policy of denying or which effectively prevents the parents of students who are or have been in attendance at a school of such agency or at such institution, as the case may be, the right to inspect and review the education records of their children. What you're doing is you're giving the state the right to review and inspect your information and your education. And I urge everybody to get a higher education by seeking counsel in the Most High. Again, you will get a much clearer base of knowledge. If any material or document in the education record of a student includes information on more than one student, the parents of one such student shall have the right to inspect and review only such part of such material or document as relates to such student, or to be informed of the specific information contained in such part of such material. So what is a student? Includes any person. Includes any person. It's the documentation. It is not the living soul. It is the record. Quit giving them records. What else? For purposes of this section, the term directory information relating to a student includes the following. The student's name, address, telephone listing, date and place of birth, major field of study, participation in officially recognized activities and sports, weight and height of members of athletic teams, dates of attendance at 10. Your performance is a tender of payment. Your performance by attending, manually, physically laboring is a form of tender. Degrees and awards received and the most recent previous educational agency or institution attended by the student. So it's not just the information that you tender, your physical abilities. Any educational agency or institution making public directory information shall give public notice of the categories of information which is designated as such information with respect to each student attending the institution or agency, and shall allow a reasonable period of time after such notice has been given for a parent to inform the institution or agency that any or all of the information designated should not be released without the parent's prior consent. By giving them information, you are giving consent. By giving information and telling them you don't have my consent to distribute it, you are limiting the input into just that institution. Let's see. Anything else? Okay. And see, it's the schools. See, when you send your kids to school and they eat lunch at school, Secretary of Agriculture or authorized representative of Food and Nutrition Service or contractors acting on behalf of the Food and Nutrition Service. That's at school. That school lunch cafeteria is they're contracting with the Food and Nutrition Services to provide your children lunch. That's one of those nutritional supplement benefit programs that you get access to without having a EBT card. I don't think. Surveys or other data gathering activities. Survey. They're going by the last name. It's a military. That's why they say yes, sir, no, sir. student rather than parents' permission or consent. For the purpose of this section, whenever a student has attained 18 years of age or is attending an institution of post-secondary education, meaning higher education, the permission or consent required of and the rights accorded to the parents of the student shall thereafter only be required and accorded of the student. So when it comes to that selective service and the 14-year-old males that take upon this higher education, there again is a problem. It's just like the enumeration at birth. They're qualifying somebody prior to the qualification. Because the student goes to school at the age of 14, they're getting mom and dad's consent, despite the fact that the kid doesn't want to go to school. But that's because he's not 18 yet. So they're not granting him the ability to negate the consent of the student by going to the mom and dad. If they're not required to go to school from the age of 14 on, then why are they requiring only the consent of the parent? You can be emancipated at the age of 14, folks. Let's see here. All right, well, the next one. Again, another definition. Definitions under 20 U.S. Code 7011. Again, that's employees. Child means an individual. Again, a person, age 3 through 21. The term community-based organization means a private, non-profit organization. See, that school is a non-profit organization. It's a private, non-profit organization. That's why they get the benefit of the nutritional food supplement program. It's a non-profit organization. English learner with a disability. The term English learner with a disability means an English learner who is also a child with a disability, as that term is defined in section 1401 of this title. What is an English learner? Means an individual who is age 30 who is enrolled or preparing to enroll in an elementary school or secondary school, who was not born in the United States, or whose native language is a language other than English. So when you're born, and we'll see when we look at the very tail end of this stream, the term native. If you're born, when you're born, and you have a native language, it would be something that is natural and not something that is taught or learned outside of your naturalness, your nativity. Very important to understand these simple terms, folks. An English learner is somebody that's learning English in a primary or secondary school, and English is not their native language. Okay? So again, remember that term native. It's going to be very important later. Immigrant children and youth. The term immigrant children and youth means individuals, persons who are aged 3 through 21 were not born in any state. Again, that term state being circular, because when we click on that, it's going to say United States and possessions of the United States. Oh, this one here says the term state means each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, but the 50 states ceded their jurisdiction to the United States, so it's still the corporate entity. Again, it's not the Republic of Iowa, it's Iowa State or State of Iowa, telling you it's a corporate entity. A franchise or an extension, a subsidiary of the United States, funded and sponsored by the United States. Again, the states cannot, under the United States codes and everything, cannot, the Congress lays and collects taxes, duties, and imposts and excises. They cannot coin or mint their own money on the state levels. That's all done on the federal level. Term Indian tribe means Indian tribe band, Language instruction educational program means an instruction course in which an English learner is placed for the purpose of developing, transitioning, and attaining English proficiency while meeting challenging state academic standards that may make instructional use of both English and a child's native language to enable the child to develop and attain English proficiency, and may include the participation of English proficient children if such course is designed to enable all participating children to become proficient in English and a second language. The term native language, when used with reference to an individual of limited English proficiency, means the language normally used by such individual, or in the case of a child or youth, the language normally used by the parents of the child or youth. Okay. So the next one I got, CFR 656.2. Description of the Immigration and Nationality Act and the Department of Labor's role thereunder. See, this is all about the labor certification process for permanent employment of aliens in the United States. It's the same thing with any employment. Your education program is to provide you English language learning so you can become an employee. Again, a corporate employee. Description of the Act, 8 U.S.C. 1101. Regulates the admission of aliens into the United States. That's the corporate entity. The Act designates the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Secretary of State as the principal administrators of its provisions. Again, it's the Department of Homeland Security that you go to for a redress for misidentification. And that's done through the Secretary of State, through the enumeration at birth, with that Vital Statistics Bureau certificate of birth, from mom's statement of live birth at the hospital, that bailment. Burden of proof under the Act. 8 U.S.C. 1361 provides in part, pertinent part, whenever any person makes application for a visa or other documentation required for entry. Remember, that document was entered into the records of the United States. And again, the United States is the debtor located in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the one with the physical geographical 10 square mile boundary, and you cannot find the United States in Washington, D.C. except the record. The United States is the corporate record, and you are entered into that corporate record by documentation at the hospital known as enumeration at birth under 5 U.S.C. 301. Again, 5 U.S.C. is employees, and 301 is departmental regulations applicable to Department of Defense, military, and it talks about plain writing, which would be the English language, and the minimum birth registration requirements, or makes application for admission or otherwise attempts to enter the United States. The burden of proof shall be upon such person to establish that he is eligible to receive such visa or such document, or is not subject to exclusion under any provisions of this act. So even though you do not enter into the record, the obverse is that you are not excluded, you are not denied, you are not delayed, it does not come at your expense, you are not discriminated against based upon your nationality or lack thereof. I hope that makes sense, folks. Alt says, as they say, when you were born in a contract, whereas no one told you or really wanted you in, we find ourselves in the likeness of God. Salute as always, King El Perro. Thanks, brother. You are absolutely right. Most of us were forced into this ideology by threat of agencies taking children, as well as making parents agree to disability to later take drugs no sane man or woman would take. Yep. Company commingling together, we find ourselves down the rabbit hole. Yep. That's exactly what they do. They commingled a private journal that mom should have been keeping herself and instead kept it with a doctor in a military setting, and therefore they acquired things and they didn't give equal consideration in return. Yes, you entered data elements into a record, and they're all about data collection and distribution. That's what was entered. That was migrated. That's what immigration means. Moving from one place to another. It migrated from here to there. That's it. That's as simple as it can be explained. So let's continue on. Role of Department of Labor. Certification role of the Department of Labor under Act derives from 212A5A of 8 U.S.C. 1182, which provides that any alien who seeks admission or status as an immigrant for the purpose of employment to be deemed necessary by the board, federal, state, or municipal agent or officer. That's what you're doing when you apply to be when you apply for admission into a record. That is corporate. You're applying to be an officer or an agent of that corporate entity. Permanent full-time work by an employee for an employer other than oneself. For the purpose of this definition, an investor is not an employee. In the event of an audit, the employer must be prepared to document the permanent and full-time nature of the position by furnishing position descriptions and payroll records for the job opportunity involved in the application for permanent employment certification. An investor is not an employee. So if you know what you're doing in a contract and you go get a job application and you put certain statements on it, letting them know that you're not going to be an employee, but you'd like to invest in their corporation by tendering your labor in exchange for legal tender, physical tender in exchange for legal tender, you might start getting a concept of how this stuff works. Value system for value system, equal consideration. Rather than me not getting the proper consideration and being able to take upon certain benefits because you want to consider me an employee, whereby I'm limited, I'd rather be an investor and tender my wage or my labor. I'd rather tender my labor in exchange for those coupons, FRNs, checks, cards, certificates. Do you understand that, folks? I hope so. Well, we can certainly look that up. We'll do that when we're done here. I got a couple more to go here, and then we're going to look at that etymology thing. But the next one I got is 34 CFR Part 99, Education, Office of the Secretary, Department of Education, Family Educational Rights and Privacy. What are the rights of inspection and review of education records? What are the procedures for amending education records? May an educational agency or institution disclose personally identifiable information from information records? What are the enforcement procedures? Appendix A to Part 99, Crimes and Violation or Crimes of Violence definitions. And they use the authority here, 20 U.S.C., employees. Employee benefits is the authority here. Again, this is Department of Education. Regulations. The purpose of this part is to set out requirements for the protection of privacy of parents and students under Section 444 of the General Education Provisions Act as amended. And I did a thing on public education, the wrong path. I did that video maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And again, that's what I was talking about with the selective service. And that General Education Provisions Act specifically mentions the Trading with the Enemies Act. And under the Trading with the Enemy Act, you can have full acquittance and discharge in the interest of the United States, where no person shall be held liable in any court. It all ties together, and it's the General Education Provisions Act. Remember, general is a military term. You're being educated in a military fashion to work for a military corporation without knowing so. And at the age of 14, You're putting your young men and forcing them into that public education system, and now they're going to be required to sign up for that military service. You're making them requirement. You're fulfilling a requirement that is not for their consent. And yet they have no consent until they're 18. So the record reflects that they took upon benefits upon parents' consent, and now the child, once he becomes an adult, is required because of that record. You're killing your children. You're killing your children. '42 U.S. Code 1395 WW. Payments to hospitals for inpatient hospital services. You guys recognize the 1395? '42 U.S. Code 1395. '42 U.S. Code 1395 WW. Payments to hospitals for inpatient hospital services. Inpatient hospital services under 1395X. Excuse me. '42 U.S. Code 1395 WW. Payments to hospitals for inpatient hospital services. This is 1395 WW. Under 1395X, definitions, the very first one says spell of illness. The term spell of illness with respect to any individual means a period of consecutive days, beginning with the first day, not included in a previous spell of illness, on which such individual is furnished inpatient hospital services. Mom and dad, when you went to the hospital and you had that child, it was done under the auspices of a spell of illness. Do you understand what's happening, folks? You were born in a spell of illness, and then they teach you the English language that spells the illness. It's sick. Determination of costs for inpatient hospital services, limitations, exemptions, operating costs. 32 CFR 1602.4, the selective service responsible for all operations and administrations of the board or boards, local board or boards within its jurisdiction. The hospital is a military venue, once again. I don't think there's anything else in here that I noted I wanted to mention, but I do want to just check it out real quick just in case. Oh, hell no. This is one of the longest ones there is. We're not going to get into this one today. Wait a minute. Rural area. Remember, we're talking about HUD and urban development. The Secretary shall determine a national adjusted DRG prospective payment rate for each inpatient hospital discharge in a fiscal year 1984 involving inpatient hospital services of subsection D, hospital in the United States. Hospitals in the United States. Corporate military hospitals, folks. So let's look at the next one. This is the prohibitions that I was talking about. 42 U.S. Code 1395, without any extension letters going on. Just 1395. Prohibition against any federal interference. Nothing in this chapter shall be construed to authorize any federal officer or employee to exercise any supervision or control over the practice of medicine or the manner in which medical services are provided, or over the selection, tenure, or compensation of any officer or employee of any institution, agency, or person providing health services, or to exercise any supervision or control over the administration or operation of any such institution or agency or person. So I want to explain to you guys, once again, they've put me through those competency tests 3 times. One time for a felony offense when I was 18, second-degree robbery. Never went back to prison, never did anything like that again. And it shouldn't have been a robbery, it should have been a theft, 5th-degree theft, like a simple purse snatching, snatch and grab. But not trying to say an excuse. I was guilty. I did something wrong I should never have done. I paid my price. I repented. But when they sent me to the hospital for a 30-day evaluation in a lockup ward, so that the court order was to spend 30 days in this lockup ward for a mental evaluation competency test. And so they gave me a thing called the Minnesota Metaphysical Personality Inventory. At that time, that's what they used for competency. They use something else now. I can't remember what it's. Actually, they've got a few competency tests now in the modern times, but back then it was the MMPI, and I took the test, I completed it, and part of the test was 3 drawings. They want to see how good your comprehension, your observance, and your portrayal is. So they have you draw 3 pictures: a person, a place, and a thing. So the person I drew was Mother Mary holding a baby. The place I drew was a house with the bushes and landscape and everything. And then the thing I drew was a tree on the side of a creek bed. Then the test itself has like 457 questions, of which many of them are multiple are the same question, just rewritten in different ways. So I took the test. I spent a day on each of the 3 drawings. And then I did the test, and I did that in a day, easy, 457 questions, a portion of a day. It took me longer to draw each of the pictures than it did to do the whole test. That's how much I concentrated on the drawings. As a talented man, I've been drawing since I was a kid, so I love the drawing part. So I articulated it very well, much like we would expect people to articulate their language. And the importance here is that because the judge ordered me in a 30-day evaluation, and I spent 4 days on the test, And then the doctor came back to me the next week, did the interview with me to go over the test. And this is where I'm telling you, like this last section just said, the federal officer or employee doesn't have any authority. So under the auspices of the corporate United States, the court that administrates the statutes as contracts with the federal code, under the administration of the corporation, gave me a court order to attend a military institution with a doctor to give me an evaluation. And despite the fact that the court order said I was supposed to be there for 30 days, the doctor took a look at the results of the test and said, there's no reason for you to be here. You're fully competent. And discharged me despite the court order. And what I'm trying to tell you, folks, is the doctor has more authority than the judge. So when Mom entered that document, that has standing authority according to the doctor. And that's why you have to go back and get that document and remove it from the military record. I hope you guys understand this. So the next one is the one I was talking about earlier, 42 U.S. Code 2000D, prohibition against exclusion. Remember, they can't exclude you and discriminate against you based upon a nationality or lack thereof. From participation in, denial of, and discrimination under federally assisted programs on ground of race, color, or national origin. National origin. Now, this is where we're going to talk about that native. The last section I got to talk about. When you learn the English language, I urge you to go above and beyond the education that they call higher education. Above and beyond what they call a higher education, folks, I urge you. You are killing your children by not doing so. Native as an adjective. Natural, inborn, hereditary, connected with something in a natural way. Native, born in, raw, unspoiled. Unspoiled. The English language is spoiling you. It is putting you in a spell of illness. And you live in that spell of illness all your life. Not as a native, as an adjective, but as something else. And we'll show you here in a minute. Let's finish this up. And directly from Latin, nativus, innate, produced by birth, past participle of nasi, be born, beget. From pi root, gene. From Proto-Indo-European root, gene. Give birth, beget, with derivatives referring to procreation and familial and tribal groups. Not Indian tribes, but tribal groups. Tribunals. So, you were spoiled as a noun from early 15th century as born in a particular place of indigenous origins or growth, not exotic or foreign, of or pertaining to one by birth, as native land. Also used from early 15th century in a now obsolete sense of bound. Born in servitude or serfdom. Of metals, minerals, etc., occurring in a pure state in nature. Occurring in a pure state of nature, or in a pure state in nature. And you were spoiled because you weren't born in a pure state of nature. You were born in a military hospital. And instead of knowing you as a native adjective, native is a noun and is a person born in bondage. Wake the fuck up! So if you're going to claim native, you better know what nativity to claim. Because you weren't born in a nation. You were born in a fucking hospital, creating documentation of persons. That's a bond, a commercial bond. It's commercial paper. It's got a bonded weight. Therefore, it's a commercial bond, and the person named in it is bonded. Mom and dad, quit sending your children into these slave camps and bonding them. I urge you to learn the English in a higher fashion. Unlearn the remembering what everybody else wrote and get back to the origins. That's why I do etymology. One born a serf or villain. The establishment of a numeration at birth is the creation of a villain, as I said, because it's an investigation. It's a gate in vesting that you do. I am the gate of the vestige in that hospital. If I plant a seed in my woman and I want to be that authority, I can't give it up to some fucking military son of a bitches. Excuse my language. A sense now obsolete from native adjective, and in some uses or usages from medieval Latin nativus, noun use of nativus, adjective. Compare Old French naif, which also means woman born in slavery, from 1530s as one born in a certain place or country, applied from 1600 to original inhabitants of non-European nations where Europeans hold political power. For example, American Indians. Hence, used contemptuously of the locals. And with that, we've come to the end of our research here. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I hope you understand the delusion and the disease, the spell of illness that you were born into, and how imperative it is to get your ass up and start doing your research. Don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mom. She's the one that signed you up for this shit. We all need a higher education. And I ask all of you to seek that higher education from the Most High. Hebrews 6, verse 17. Wherein God, willing more abundantly to shew unto the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath. If you're going to accept any oath, accept that oath and seek that counsel, the counsel of truth, and not some Babylonian text that they taught you in a General Education Provisions Act. I want to thank everybody once again for your continued support. There's PayPal link down below for anybody who wants to share some love. And on your way out, please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully we'll be able to gather up some more people in these and show you the plain language that you've been deceived in. You've been spoiled. And real quick here, let me do one more. Under the Libra Code. Because the Libra Code, Article 38, of the Libra Code tells us private property, unless forfeited by crimes or offenses of the owner, can be seized only by way of military necessity. They must be deemed necessary by the board for the support or other benefit of the Army or of the United States. They're using this shit for their benefit. And if the owner has not fled, the commanding officer will cause receipts to be given, which may serve the spoliated owner to obtain indemnity. Spoliated means spoiled. In case you didn't understand that, folks, you were spoiled. Emigration. What's the difference between immigration and emigration? Emigrant versus immigrant. An emigrant is someone who emigrates, moves away from a country. An immigrant is someone who immigrates, moves to a different country. So one is an import and one is an export. It's all about importing and exporting. While you have a right of entrepot, of having a stationary place of being, a place, a possession of lands. Leviticus 25, verse 23, the land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And the Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. So why do I need a passport? Can you answer that? While you profess that these laws are scripturally founded. Show me how you can tell me that I have to have an identification with a name and a number that identifies the record. Why are you telling me I have to have your record? Why are you telling me I have to put my information into your record and then get a copy of that from you so I can show to everybody else? I'm not part of your distribution. Distribute. I pay all tribute to our Father which art in heaven, the Most High. Fuck everybody else. Excuse my language again. And so with that, again, I want to give one final thanks for everybody's support. Thanks, Gump. Who hold legal status of free men in their dealings with all people except their Lord. Yes. It's leaving out the one primary element you're supposed to have in all communications. In order to receive equity, you must first bring equity. So if you want truth, you must first bring truth. The Word. In the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was God. You must bring God. Every last one of their shit is all fiction and won't recognize anything. You have to scare them. You have to make them flee where none follow. Yes, that's the criminal. That's the investigation. When the enumeration at birth is applied, that's the beginning of an invest-I gate. It's the gate that I vest in, giving up the full armor of God once again. Everything says that you're not doing things with God. And by not doing them with God, they already know you are a sinner. Quit. Stop. Don't do it anymore. You're killing your children. You're putting them right into bondage. So with that, I'm out. Again, thank you all. And remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you and have a good day.